Sairam. It was a cool winter morning on the 13th of December 1963, a Sunday. A sleepy little town called Manjeri, about 45 kilometers from the city of Calicut in Kerala, the Indian state of Kerala. Let's travel to the home of Mr. U. Ram Mohan Rao, a superintendent in a junior tech school. And when I say tech school, I mean a technical school, not a technology school. Technology schools were not in vogue back then in 1963. Since it was a Sunday, he was at home with his wife and daughter Sailaja. At around 8 o'clock in the morning, the maid servant comes to him and tells him that there is a sadhu, a holy man waiting for you at the door. So Mr. Ram Mohan Rao wonders who is this unexpected visitor, gets up and goes to the door, and he is pleasantly surprised to see Sri Sathya Sai Baba at his door. He has been a devotee of Shirdi Baba all his life. And in 1956, that is when Sathya Sai Baba entered his home as a photograph, which he kept in his puja room and worshipped. After a while, Mr. Ram Mohan Rao also bought the Satyam Shivam Sundaram, Part 1. Back then it was not called Part 1, it was just Satyam Shivam Sundaram. He took to Swami instantly, and his daughter Sailaja actually took to Swami even more. She became devoted to Swami. Ram Mohan Rao was thrilled, and at the same time he wondered where were the others. Swami looked at him and said, Hari Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Hari Om, let's go home, let's hurry home, let's enter your home. He did not ask Swami, where are the others, what has happened, nothing. He just said, welcome Swami, welcome. He thought that Swami had come on a visit to Calicut and possibly had slipped to bless his humble dwelling. This miracle that I am about to narrate has found its way into the part 2 of Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Needless to say, the wife and daughter are also thrilled with the arrival of Swami. They welcome Swami into the house and try to take him to the main hall. But Swami heads straight to the puja room and he says, I will go and stay in my place. So they all assemble in the puja room. Swami turns to Ram Mohan Rao and tells him, go see if anybody is available for pravachan and bhajan. Satsangh and bhajan. These are two things so dear to Swami. These are things that he did wherever he went. So Ram Mohan Rao rushes out of the home in order to find some devotees. Swami has come, can you come home? Let's have bhajan and satsang. So when he runs out, the first person he invites is Ramesh Rao, his own cousin. He also invites his landlord, a person by name Talayur Musad. Talayur Musad and his 5-year-old son also come to his home. That apart, Ram Mohan Rao also manages to invite the widow of his neighbor Madhavan Nair. Madhavan Nair is a very prominent personality. He is the founder of the very popular and very famous Malayalam daily called Matrubhumi. He had passed away and his widowed wife was also invited. These people came to Ram Mohan Rao's home for the satsang and bhajan, along with them a few others. Ram Mohan Rao did not go far away to invite more people because he wanted to spend time with Swami. Now while he was gone, in the meanwhile, Swami had started speaking with both Sailaja and the mother, Mrs. Ram Mohan Rao. He told the wife that she should not worry about any sorrow or suffering. In fact, he told her, look, the sisters of this body, referring to Venkamagaru and Parvatamagaru, Swami said, they are already widows. So, suffering and pain are natural in this world. Don't get too bothered about them. They are passing clouds. They will go. The daughter Sailaja, she loved bhajans. So she said, Swami, can you please get me a bhajan book, a bhajanavali? When she asked like this, Swami said, you know Palghat Menon? Mr. Menon was a devotee from Palghat, known as Palakkad today in Kerala. Swami said, Palghat Menon has brought 400 books, Bhajanavali books in Malayalam. They're there in Prasanthi Nilayam, I'll get one for you. And he waved his palm and materialized a blue book. The stock in Prasanthi Nilayam became $3.99 because one book was gifted by Swami, complimentary to Sailaja. Swami gave that to her. In the meanwhile, all these people gathered. Mr. Ram Mohan Rao also came back home, and about a dozen people were there. Swami said, let's do bhajans. And thus began a beautiful bhajan session, and Swami himself led the first bhajan. Swami sang, O Bhagwan, O Bhagwan. A very beautiful bhajan, which is not sung these days, but in those days, Raja Reddy Garu used to sing it so soulfully. It's a very long bhajan, and Swami sang that bhajan. Along with that bhajan, Swami sang 3 other bhajans as well. It was a lively and lovely bhajan session. After the bhajans were over, Swami spoke to everybody, delivered a divine discourse on the theme of bhakti or devotion. After that began the one-on-one interactions. Swami called Ram Mohan Rao and materialized for him a Shankamala, a garland made out of 108 tiny conch shells collected from the sea. Swami gave it to him and said that he should garland Swami's photograph in the puja room with that mala or garland. Then Swami spoke to the widow of Madhavan Nair, the founder of Matrubhumi. She told Swami, Swami, by God's grace, we get plenty of harvest. Daily bags of rice come into my home and granaries. But I am unable to eat even a little bit because of my diabetes. Swami asked Ram Mohan Rao to get a glass from his kitchen and then tapped on it. It filled up to the brim with a pink liquid. Swami told this lady, take this liquid thrice a day for 3 days. After that, you may eat as much rice as you wish. Then there was this Talayur Musad. He had multiple problems in his legs, including eczema. He asked Swami, what should I do? Please help me. Swami said, I will send some vibhuti for you through Mrs. Ram Mohan Rao. You use that and it will become fine. Now in this crowd was also one cynic. He always, was very curious, but he never felt Swami as divine. Swami looked at him and said, you are unable to believe that I have come? Come here. It is me. It is me. You can check. And Swami told him to actually cut one strand of hair and keep with him as proof. This man brought a scissors, and when he went to cut Swami's hair, he was unable to cut it. A bigger scissors was brought. Even with that, he was unsuccessful. Finally, a huge scissors. This was used actually for gardening. Even with that, a strand of hair on Swami's head could not be cut. When Bhagwan says, not even a hair on my devotee's head can be touched without my permission, this is one proof of that. We are absolutely safe once we are in Swami's protection. After all these unforgettable individual sessions with those 12 of people who were lucky to gather at home that day, around 11 o'clock, Swami said, I have to leave now. So people thought that yes, he is going back to Calicut. Swami got up, materialized some vibhuti and kumkum and gave it to the host and his wife. And for Sailaja, he materialized a glass with a spout. He also materialized a silk cloth and told her to stitch a jacket with that. And then he told all these people who had gathered, just stay here, I will leave on my own. The host insisted that he would accompany Swami, but Swami also insisted that he stays back, walked all alone till the gate and then just disappeared. They ran to the gate to see where Swami was, but Swami was nowhere to be found. They were then thinking of where Swami said he had to go. Swami had told them, devotees are waiting for me at Kalahasti. Now, Kalahasti is a place that's about 20 miles from Venkatagiri. They had thought Kalahasti was some place nearby. What these people did not realize that on that very specific date, 13th of December, the Sunday in 1963, Swami was actually at Venkatagiri, a kingdom that was 600 miles away from Manjeri. And that evening, Swami had a program at Kalahasti, which is a very, very famous temple town close to Venkatagiri. The interesting thing about this miracle is that nobody, Mr. Ramohan Rao, his family and all the others, the dozen or so people who had attended the bhajan session at his home in the town of Manjeri, nobody even realized that it was a miracle. There was no technology those days, there was no internet, there was no mobile phone, landlines themselves were a rarity. So they just thought that Swami had come to Calicut and he visited us, that's all. They were very happy. They did not know that it was a miracle. But Bhagwan's love and magnanimity is such that first he blesses us with a miracle and then he blesses us with the knowledge that a miracle has happened to us, so that we can cherish it, feel grateful, feel thrilled and uplift our own lives. Let's fast forward to the 24th of December 1963. It was a Thursday this time and Shailaja, the daughter, had gone to some other town. So the father and mother, Mr. and Mrs. Ram Mohan Rao, were feeling lonely. They went visiting some friends in order to overcome the absence of Shailaja. When they returned home, it was about 6:30 in the evening. They were surprised to see that all the lights in their home were on. Oh my God, has someone got in? Ram Mohan Rao quickly went and checked the front door and the back door and all the windows. Everything were bolted shut as they had left. Cautiously, they opened the main door, went in. All lights were on. As they were walking through the house, in the puja room, they see Swami sitting there. And Swami looks at them and asks, "Did you get scared?" They say, "No, Swami, we are so happy that you have come." And something hits them in their head that, hey, this is possibly a miracle. This is a miracle happening. Because Swami has got into the house with all the doors and windows locked. How did he get in? Swami being present in Manjeri when he was physically there in Venkatagiri is not recognized as a miracle, because they are not aware of it. But Swami being able to get into a house with door locked, it's a miracle. This is how it is. Many times we miss the biggest miracles of God and we need the little miracles to wake us into His presence, into the awareness of His presence in our lives. Swami would say that all these miracles are my visiting cards. The transformation of the heart, Swami's love, that is the greatest miracle, Swami would say. But what to do? We miss the big miracles and we are fascinated by the little ones, and therefore Swami would entertain us and touch us through those little miracles. But this time when Swami was seated, they knew that this is something special. And Swami said, "Come, I know you are feeling lonely. Let's do bhajans." So once again, late in the evening, they do bhajans till night, and this time it's just the two of them in Swami's presence. And then Swami says, "Come, it's time for dinner." The wife goes and makes kheer. Swami says, no, I don't like kheer. He's like, Swami is one with us when he's among us. Makes us forget that he is God. He's such a perfect host, such a perfect guest. Swami said, there is no need to cook anything special for Swami. Whatever you have, you offer to me, I will be very happy to eat. Swami does not expect something extraordinary or something special that we need to do for him. We may say that if we want to live every day in our life as if Swami is with us, let us do all the things that we would do if Swami visits our home. When Swami himself visited a home, Swami said there is no need to do anything extraordinary or special. Just cook the food that you would cook every day. Follow the routine that you would follow every day. Of course, have satsang and bhajans. Ram Mohan Rao and his wife are in such delirious joy to have Swami at their home. Swami has dinner and then retires for the night. Mr. Rammohan Rao is curious. He wants to know what Swami does at night. He goes and peeps. And when he peeps through the crack of the door, he sees Swami sitting. Swami does not sleep at all in the nights. He sees Swami sitting, lost in some thought, waving his palm, waving his hand. For as long as Mr. Rammohan Rao kept checking on Swami, Swami was just in that posture. Next day, early in the morning, even before the guest, even before the host could wake up, Swami is awake. Swami has had his bath and Swami is ready. Swami says, let's have some coffee and breakfast. After that, let's do bhajan and satsang again. By this time, somehow word spreads. Word spreads. When the Lord comes, word spreads. And people start gathering. More than 100 people gather at this time and 100 people have Swami's darshan on that Friday. The day Jesus Christ was born, 25th of December, is the day when more than 100 people in the little town of Manjeri had darshan of Bhagwan Baba. And there is a pravachan, a satsang, a bhajan session, at the end of which Swami says we have to give prasadam. But what to give for prasadam? There is nothing, Rammohan Rao rushes into his kitchen. There is a quarter kilogram, 250 grams of dates. Swami says, yes, that's enough. Swami starts giving handful of dates to all the devotees, and Rammohan Rao is sure that with 5 devotees the dates will get over. But then Swami is infinite. Anything he touches becomes infinite. That quarter kilogram of dates is sufficient for all the 100 people who had gathered. Swami blesses them profusely, gives different devotees vibhuti, kumkum, speaks to them, counsels them. Swami also materializes a big Rudraksha mala for Mr. Rammohan Rao. Puts it around his neck and tells him, wear this daily when you do your Sandhya rites, the Sandhya ritual. When you have the thread ceremony, you wear a thread, the sacred thread. And 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening, there is this ritual rite that must be done along with the Gayatri mantra. Swami used to be very particular that this has to be done always. And Swami would be very happy with those who do the Sandhya ritual. So Swami tells Rammohan Rao, wear this Rudraksha mala when you do the Sandhya ritual. After that, you can put it around my photograph, my portrait. Mrs. Rammohan Rao must have felt a little jealous. Her husband got a Shankamala, a Rudraksha mala. Swami looked at her and waved his hand and created a thin sheet of gold, on which Swami began to engrave with his fingernails. And within a few minutes, it was the beautiful figure of her favorite deity, Subramanya, on a peacock. Swami then rolled that sheet and said, get a golden locket made, put this sheet inside that golden locket and wear it around your neck. And then, jokingly Swami said, what to do? I don't have sufficient gold, otherwise I would have made the locket for you. And Swami gifted this to her. And in this manner, these 100 people have darshan, and then Swami tells all of them to disperse. Hesitantly, all of them disperse. Swami then has lunch with this family, and Swami tells, I came because of the devotion of Shailaja. She is very devoted and you are missing her, right? And she loves to do bhajan. And that's why I always do bhajan also here. That's what Swami told the couple. Had lunch with them and Swami took rest for a while. At around 4 o'clock, Swami woke up, I say. I think they had to rest, so Swami acted like he was sleeping. And again had some tea. And at 4:30, Swami said, I have to leave now. And once again, as it had happened on the 13th of December, Swami walks to the gate alone, telling the hosts, don't come, don't follow me. And then he vanishes. That is when Mr. Rammohan Rao realized that something really magical and special has happened. He writes a letter detailing this entire experience, because not just him and his wife, 100 people on the second occasion and a dozen people on the first occasion have witnessed, spoken to Swami, have received gifts of grace from Swami. So Mr. Rammohan Rao writes this detailed letter and sends it to Prashanthi Nilayam, and Professor Kasturi receives it. And when he reads it, he is so thrilled, but he wants to verify. So he sends 2 devotees whom he knows in Kerala. he sends them with a questionnaire of 84 questions to verify all this. They verify it, check it from all the devotees, and that is how this story got into the second part of Satyam Shivam Sundaram. And before I forget, Swami had told Talayur Musa that I will send you Vibhuti through Mrs. Ram Mohan Rao, right? So, after Swami left physically, from those Swami's photographs in the puja room, profuse Vibhuti began to manifest out. And this Vibhuti was what Mrs. Ram Mohan Rao gave to Talayur Musad, and he regularly took it with water and applied it on his legs, and he was completely cured of all his problems. This was also something that those two devotees detectives whom Professor Kasturi had sent found out and reported back to him. Dear brothers and sisters, this is a phenomenal bilocation miracle that has been recorded in the Satyam Shivam Sundaram part 2. Reading it is so inspiring because it convinces me that when we yearn for Swami, He will come home. He will come home in unexpected ways. All these years, we traveled to Prashantinilayam to see Swami. It is now time to make Swami travel and make our own homes into a Prashantinilayam. I am sure with yearning and love for Him, we will do that. And I am sure, Swami, you will definitely visit all our homes. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.